Today we're going to be breaking down the updated Mel Kiper Jr. big board he just released here this week, the top 25 prospects in the 2026 NFL Draft, according to Kiper. Now, before we get into the content today, make sure you guys give me a follow on X if you haven't already, at Jack_Sperry, for additional NFL Draft content throughout the 2026 draft season. We're going to be putting out a bunch of stuff with Shrine Bowl, Senior Bowl, NFL Combine in the coming weeks. So make sure you guys give me a follow at Jack_Sperry for more content surrounding the NFL Draft. All right, so now let's get into Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board, starting with number 25, where he has the quarterback out of Alabama, Ty Simpson. Now, Simpson is somebody that obviously has been sliding down this board a little bit here in the recent iterations of Kiper's big board because, frankly, the end of his 2025 season wasn't as good as maybe the first 3/4 of his season there, where he was, the Heisman Trophy favorite at one point. He was absolutely dicing up defenses on a weekly basis, and then towards the end of the season, he sort of tapered off. And, of course, Alabama was able to win one playoff game this year, but then, of course, they got absolutely killed by the eventual champions, the Indiana Hoosiers, in the Rose Bowl. But guys, I'm just going to tell you right now, I think I'm going to be higher on Ty Simpson than most people, in the draft space this year. I think a lot of people are going to see that end of the season and that SEC championship game and that Rose Bowl performance, and it's going to be hard for people to, get that out of their minds. But I mean, let's just wind the clocks back here. Maybe like 2 months ago, this guy was putting together tape that we haven't seen at that level of college football in the SEC in quite a while. I mean, guys like Todd McShay were comparing his film to like Joe Burrow level film. And listen, man, with that pro style offense that they run there at Alabama, they asked him to go under center a lot with play action, and that is a skill set that a lot of NFL teams cherish. And, a lot of guys like Fernando Mendoza and others are going to have to learn once they get to the NFL level. Ty Simpson's already done it and has shown he can do it at a really high level. He can throw with touch. He's got a really strong arm. He can make plays with his legs as well, some decent pocket presence. There's a lot to work with there with Ty Simpson. So I think a lot of people right now are like, oh, he's not even a first-round pick. But I think he's definitely a first-round selection for somebody here come April. And, I think something to keep in mind here when it comes to Ty Simpson and how that season didn't end the way that he probably would have liked to is that, his body kind of broke down, man. And, he kind of detailed this in a recent story on On3, saying the 6'2", 210-pound Simpson showed his durability and toughness throughout the season despite taking a pounding. He said he played through a building disc in his back, burris in his elbow, and had a reaction to some medication that inflamed the lining of his stomach. Quote, I couldn't eat anything but chicken noodle soup and crackers for 2 weeks going into the Auburn game and SEC championship game, Simpson joked. And then the playoff loss to Indiana, he said he cracked the 10th rib on his left side, the floating rib, late in the first half while scrambling and taking a helmet to the ribs and fumbling, an injury that can be especially painful when trying to bend or twist. Quote, I tried to go in the second half, the first possession, but couldn't throw it past 10 yards, unquote, Simpson said. So listen, man, I think when you look at the film from Simpson when he was actually healthy during this season, it was the most, I think that he's probably the most pro-ready quarterback in this class. And we'll talk about Fernando Mendoza later in this video, but Simpson, man, he's already run an NFL offense and he's already shown he can operate at a high level. And, I know people talk about the lack of playing experience, but, his film looked like somebody that had been playing college football for 4 or 5 years at that point. And, he seems to me like a really mature passer for somebody that honestly hasn't played that many games. But I also think, with the McVay and Shanahan style offenses really taking over in the modern day NFL, the head coaches and the offensive coordinators that run those schemes are really going to like Ty Simpson as a quarterback prospect because those offenses ask their quarterbacks to go under center a lot and throw over the middle of the field, hit those backside digs, and Ty Simpson probably hit more of those high-level NFL quality throws than any other quarterback in college football this year, and that includes Fernando Mendoza because Mendoza played in a very RPO and screen-heavy offense. He had some awesome throws of his own, but Simpson, over the span of the middle 6 weeks of the season, man, he was just ripping intermediate digs. He was ripping seam balls. He was operating a NFL-style, vertical-style passing game from under center, and, he's already had developed that skill set of being able to play from under center, which usually takes guys 2 or 3 years to develop at the pro level. Simpson can probably step step into an NFL offense on day one and at least be serviceable. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. Will Ty Simpson come off the board in the top 20? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section. For me, I think he probably does come off the board in the top 20. I think one of these Shanahan or McVay-style offenses that need a quarterback of the future are probably going to look at Simpson as somebody that can provide, not only day one readiness, but also some long-term starter upside. So make sure you guys let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned question. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Prize Picks. While I tell you about our sponsor today, simply give me a yes or a no down there in the comments. And with that, let's have word from our sponsor today at Prize Picks. And the big game in Santa Clara is almost here, guys, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than with Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get in on the football action before next season. So close out the year out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. And a new feature from Prize Picks now has early payouts. If you're a player, or if one of your players gets off to a hot start, you now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. When it comes to conference championship weekend here, my lineup, guys, I'm taking the more on passing yards for Drake May, Matthew Stafford, and Sam Darnold. And sorry, Broncos fans, I'm going to take the less on passing yards for Jarrett Stidham. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Moving on here with Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board at number 24. You're going to have a wide receiver out of Washington, Denzel Boston, really good route runner, big body, can box people out, 50-50 ball winner, certainly a first-round talent in my estimation. And then Zachariah Branch moves up here to the number 23 spot on Mel Kiper's big board here in this iteration. And, Branch is just dynamic with the ball in his hands. He's also going to be a deep threat. He's going to provide some ability to return punts as well, just with the ball in his hands in space, man. Zachariah Branch is special, and he can also run some pretty decent routes as well. So I do expect Branch to be in the mix there among the top receivers in this class. Then we go to his Georgia teammate on the other side of the ball here, linebacker C.J. Allen. And Allen is somebody that's probably going to be like a fringe first-round guy just because of the position he plays, but I think he will be one of the more surefire, prospects in this entire class. He's got the speed to chase down running backs. He's got the power to be able to take on blocks and shed, and then he's also got the pass coverage ability, and he's just well-rounded. He's an every down starting linebacker in the National Football League. In my opinion, from day one, he's played in a very pro-style system defensively under Kirby Smart there in Georgia, and obviously the track record of Georgia defenders speaks for themselves. I think Allen is an awesome player, and whoever gets him is going to get a day one starter in the middle of their defense. Then you got Caleb Lomu, one of the offensive linemen here from Utah, made the list here, and then you get to Mansoor Delane, the cornerback out of LSU. Really technically sound corner from the Tigers that I think somebody that needs a day one starter at corner can certainly grab in the first round. Then Peter Woods, the very physically talented defensive tackle from Clemson, did not have a great season with the Tigers this year, and people were really expecting him to take a big step forward. And honestly, you can make an argument he took a step backwards on the film this year, but he's definitely the size and athleticism package that NFL teams look for in their starting three techniques, and I do think that he will eventually go in the first round this year. But my preference at defensive tackle in the first round is actually Kayden McDonald, who's one of the best run-defending nose tackles in this class, but he can also get after quarterbacks. He's got a really quick first step forward nose tackle, and I'm not saying he's Dexter Lawrence, but he's, kind of that profile of somebody that can really stuff the run and get after the quarterback at the same time. He was the defensive lineman of the year in the Big Ten. He's just an absolute monster, man. I think at the end of the day, I mean, Mel has him as the number 18 prospect right now. It would not surprise me because of how rare it is to find a nose tackle that can truly get after quarterbacks. Would not surprise me if McDonald gets into the top 10 conversation when it's all said and done. But then we're going to go with Olaivavega Ioane. I think I'm saying that right. I'm probably not saying it right there, but so my apologies to the young man out of Penn State, but his film is awesome, man. Like, he just drives people backwards. It's very technically sound. There's a reason why he's expected to be the top guard in what's going to be a pretty darn good offensive guard class. It's a good year if you need some help on the interior of the offensive line. And somebody in the first round is going to love this kid from the Nittany Lions. Then you get to Jermod McCoy, who's one of the more intriguing cornerback prospects in this entire class because, like, back in 2024, you can make an argument if he would have came out last year, he would have been, one of the best corners, if not the best corner in the entire draft class last season. Obviously this year he misses, the season with a very serious injury, and you just don't know, what that's going to do to his long-term physical health and, whether or not he's going to have the same explosiveness. But, man, when he was playing on the field for the Tennessee Volunteers in his college career, this guy has been one of the best corners in college football. He's got the length you look for. He's got the coverage ability, both zone and man. He could be a legitimate number one corner in this league, and he could also be somebody that, has a diminished physical skill set, and that potential is gone because of that serious injury he did suffer. But then we get to Keldric Faulk, the defensive end out of Auburn. Big body, can play 5-tech if you want some versatility. Could even play 3-tech in, your NASCAR packages. He's a big boy, and, good run defender, powerful hands. But, honestly, the true pass rushing film isn't super remarkable in my opinion, but do think, he's a good player that can provide, something to a starting defensive end rotation in the National Football League. Then Kenyon Sadiq, one of the more dynamic tight end talents in this class. I think Sadiq might go a little bit earlier than some people think because, I think that, that safety blanket, that Brock Bowers type, that true receiving tight end is becoming more and more valuable in today's NFL. And, there's honestly not that many of those guys in this class. Sadiq might be the only one that's truly on that level. So, Sadiq is an entity that you can get in the first round that you can probably not get in other rounds, which would probably drive up his value here in the first. He's really, really good after the catch. He's got solid hands. I think Kenyon Sadiq is going to be a very cherished, asset here in the NFL draft in the first round. Then Akheem Mesidor. Now, the thing with Mesidor is that he is an older prospect, and honestly, by the time you get to his second contract, he's going to be pushing 30, but he's a really good player on the defensive line. 280 pounds as a defensive end, so he could even play 5-tech, and go inside a little bit. But if you're looking for a true 4-3 defensive end that just bullies people, Mesidor is going to be your guy. Then the other offensive lineman from Utah on this list, Spencer Fano, really, really good player, I think, especially because offensive linemen tend to go higher. I would not be surprised if he ends up going in the top 10. Then we get to some wide receivers here. Makai Lemon at number 11 for Kiper. Lemon is just super well-rounded. He's a little bit undersized, but I think we've seen over the last several years that you don't have to be 6'3", 220 anymore to be a legitimate number one receiver in this league. Lemon has an awesome catch radius, makes tough catches, but he's also a really good route runner. He's great after the catch. He's the complete package as far as I'm concerned, and even though he's a little bit in a smaller package, I think that he's going to be a stud for somebody that takes him in round one. Then Jordyn Tyson is at number 10. I think if Tyson was healthy, he'd probably be in the top 5. He's that good of a player on tape, but he is coming off a hamstring issue that ended his 2025 campaign. That will be something that will be talked about with him, but honestly, I don't see that as a long-term issue for him. And, this guy, his movement skills get compared to Justin Jefferson. He's also massive, and he wins 50-50 ball situations all the time. I think this guy has the potential to go top 5 if a team falls in love with him. He's for sure going to go in the top 10, though. Then Sonny Styles, the linebacker from Ohio State, athletic freak, former safety. He's just going to be flying around, and, he's pretty smart as well. There's a reason why Kiper has him in the top 10 of his big board. Now, because he plays linebacker, I think he might go maybe even the second half of the first round, but I do think he's got the physical talent to be able to be taken pretty early here in the process for a linebacker. And then you got Francis Mauigoa from the Miami Hurricanes. The offensive lineman obviously has gone up against guys like Ruben Bain and Mesidor in practice, so he's gone up against NFL quality talent in practice every single day, and he is locked down, man. I think that he's going to go very, very early. Might even be a top 5 pick because, in my opinion, he is the top offensive lineman in this class. But then we get to Ruben Bain Jr., and honestly, I think I'm a little bit lower on Bain than some other people. I am a little bit concerned with the lack of arm length. I think with the NFL tackles, they got really, really great arm length typically, and Bain's going to lose that battle against most of those tackles. But, he's got a relentless motor. He's a good run defender. I think I compare him to Brandon Graham, where it's like Brandon Graham's a really, really good player and probably like a really good number 2, but is he really ever been a number 1? I think Ruben Bain's going to have a similar type of trajectory to that, and I don't know if that's worth necessarily a top 10 10 draft pick. It's my personal opinion, but I do think he's a good player that plays the game the right way. But then number 6, Caleb Downs from Ohio State. I mean, he was a freshman starter in Nick Saban's defense. That's very, very rare, and you have to be a very intelligent football player to do that. Downs did that at Alabama, and then he goes to Ohio State, wins a national championship, and he's been one of the best defensive players in college football for many years now. He's so anticipatory. Now, he's not going to, light up, the combine with his physical traits or anything like that. He's not a bad athlete, but he's not, special in that regard. But where he's special, guys, is his football intelligence. He knows where the quarterback wants to go with the football. Sometimes before the quarterback even gets his eyes to the receiver he ends up throwing to, it's really, really impressive. And middle-of-the-field defenders, especially, game-changing middle-of-the-field defenders, are so important in today's NFL. I think Downs could be a future team captain for somebody picking in the top 10. Then David Bailey, my favorite edge rusher from this class at number 5 out of Texas Tech. He's the best pure pass rusher in the class. A little bit undersized, so I think he's a better fit for a 3-4 base defense with him playing outside linebacker. I think if you put him in as a 4-3 defensive end, he might get bullied a bit in run defense, but I mean, this guy's skill set getting after quarterbacks is legit. Incredible first step and awesome bend, really good speed to power conversion. I really like David Bailey out of the Red Raiders. Then Arvell Reese. And some people debate whether he's an edge rusher. Some people debate whether he's an inside linebacker. I think whoever takes him, guys, is going to use him all over the formation, kind of similar to a young Micah Parsons where, Dan Quinn and the Cowboys, lined him up over the A-gap or, sometimes put him on the edge or sometimes he put him off ball. And I think Reese has that versatility. He's an absolute freak of nature. And he will need to adjust to the NFL tackles, I would say, in terms of him being an edge rusher. He will have to develop that skill set if a team drafts him to be an edge. But Micah Parsons was somebody that was a little bit raw coming out of Penn State, if you'll remember. And, in year one, with good coaching, he became a bona fide superstar right away. So I think Reese is going to probably end up being a top 5 pick. And then you get to Carnell Tate, the number 1 receiver on Kiper's big board. Personally, I like Tyson's film a little bit better, but, Tate is a little bit less of a risk, I guess, with the medical stuff. Tate's awesome, man. He really is. He's been a big part of that Ohio State offense for multiple years now, and I do expect him to for sure be a top 10 pick. He's got great size, phenomenal route running, really good hands. He's got the complete package for sure. Then number 2, we got Jeremiah Love from Mel Kiper here, and I love Jeremiah Love, man. He was actually my pick to win the Heisman Trophy this year, and that just might be my Notre Dame bias showing because I am an Irish fan, and I think Love is absolutely awesome, but as high as I would like to see him go and be the next Ashton Jeanty that gets taken in the top, in the top 10 of the draft, the reality is, guys, these teams drafting in the top 10 usually don't have the infrastructure in place to support, a really good rookie running back. I think, if I'm a Jeremiah Love fan, I want to see him go to a team in the middle to late portion of the first round, a team with a little bit of a better offensive line where he can thrive in year one because, we saw with Ashton Jeanty last year. Jeanty was one of the more special running back prospects we've ever seen. You put him behind a terrible offensive line in a really poorly coached Raiders offense, and he didn't really do much in his first season in the NFL. Love is a good pass catcher. He's really explosive with the ball in his hands, but I don't want to see a team necessarily draft him in the top 10 if they don't have the infrastructure in place to support a rookie running back like him. Then the number 1 player on Mel Kiper Jr.'s big board is, of course, Fernando Mendoza, the Heisman Trophy winner, national champion now, and he's going to go number 1 to the Las Vegas Raiders. I think we all understand that at this point. But, a little bit of a fair warning to all of you guys out there, and especially to our Raiders fans out there. Look for Mendoza to have some early career struggles, okay? And the reasons for that, number 1, Indiana runs a super college-esque offense, a lot of RPOs, a lot of screens. You're not going to be protected like that at the NFL level. You're going to have to be expected to run a pro-style offense with a little bit more of a vertical passing game, and you're not going to have a run game that's going to get 6 yards a carry likely. I know you got Ashton Jeanty, but that offensive line is pretty bad, and I do think that they're going to have to build that over the next several years. And, Mendoza really doesn't have a ton of experience playing under center, and he's going to have to learn that skill set at the next level, and he's going to have to, adjust to the NFL defenses and all that stuff. along with the fact that the Raiders have one of the worst rosters in the National Football League. I know they've got some good young pieces in Ashton Jeanty and Brock Bowers, but their offensive line needs an overhaul. Their defense is absolutely terrible, especially given the fact that Max Crosby's likely going to be traded this offseason. It is a fresh, clean slate in Las Vegas. It's going to take at least a couple of years for this team to build up into something nice and something that can be, competing for a playoff spot, let alone a Super Bowl. And I think, Mendoza's certainly got the character to be able to endure that. And I think that Mendoza's somebody that's not going to get discouraged. I think that even if he has a rough first couple year or two, I think that once they do build that roster around him and he starts getting used to playing against NFL defenses, gets used to playing in a pro-style offense from under center, I think that he projects to be someone like a more athletic version of Jared Goff. And Jared Goff is a borderline top 10 QB in the National Football League. You add Mendoza's athleticism on top of that, you could be talking about a legit top 10 QB 3, 4, 5 years down the road here with a guy in Fernando Mendoza, especially if Ashton Jeanty can get going and be the star running back that he's capable of becoming. So I do think Mendoza eventually is going to pay off for Raider Nation, but my advice to you guys with the likelihood that he's going to start year one and the transition that he's going to have to go with and the roster he's going to get on day one, just don't expect him to be, amazing day one in the National Football League. That's the one thing that I'll say. So let me know who's number one down there in the comment section. Who is the best player in the 2026 NFL draft class in your opinion? Is it Mendoza? Is it somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. And that'll be it for today's edition of NFL Daily. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already for more NFL content here every single day from us here at Chat Sports.